Hey there everybody, today we've got a brand new library from Triumph Audio. This one's called Signal Drift, and I've written a little demo for it. This is an 80s inspired thing. I hope you enjoy it. After that, you may be wondering, is Signal Drift just for 80s stuff? It is not, but those were some of my favorite patches that I heard, and I was inspired to write this thing. So this uses entirely Signal Drift, and then the drums I made out of Impact Foundry. Starting out with the textures here, we've got these sci-fi sweeps to start. And then these fluttering shards. Let's go ahead and include these fractal shards as well. All the shards, just sharding all over ourselves. There we go, very cool. Let's move on to some pads and drones. This is a patch called And We Answer. Nice. We've got bowing underwater, which is not great for the strings. There we go. Starting out with the wall thumper bass. Very nice. Wow sub. Just as advertised. Very nice. The power move. That is a girthy bass. And Westworld sub. nice. There are those two basses together. And these other two basses that are used for the verse. You'll notice the wow sub doesn't have all the same bass notes as the wall thumper bass, just because it takes a little time for it to bloom. So any quick notes, it's not as good for that. It's good for longer, slower type bass lines. All right, so here's a wow sub, but used more up as keys or as a higher voice, which also sounds very cool. Yeah, so I love that a lot. Chroma synthy patch. There we go. Obviously some bass stuff in there as well. And this Chroma 80s Dream. And those two together. There we go. Chroma pluck. Yeah, and let's hear that then going into these two together. '80s Dream again, then into the solo. So a lot of the patches in here will have maybe like bass versions, I guess you could say, and then also affected versions. Okay, and then finally the last section from Signal Drift that I've used, the leads. Let's check some of these out. Here we have a flute chirp delay. There you go, very nice, I love that. Power move hits here. Sort of synthy brassy type thing. All right, this Chroma Classic FX. Yeah, let's hear that too with the brass coming in. Yeah, awesome stuff. I think you can see why I heard these sounds and like really wanted to do an 80s track with it. So if anybody wants to write lyrics for this melody, you know, let me know. I would do the lyrics myself, but I am incapable of writing sincere lyrics. If it were comedy lyrics, no problem. But there's, I just can't see myself being able to write sincere lyrics. Okay, here we go. Distant Trails. Same thing to the right, obviously. There we go. All right, chirp delay, Distant Trails. This is what's used in the center for the bridge. So you can hear a lot of these have a lot of effects on them, which you can go in and tweak or remove altogether, put your own stuff in. I do have plugins on certain tracks for sure, but a lot of it just happens out of the box in the library, which is great. So let's take a look at the drums that I've made from, mostly from Impact Foundry. You'll hear there are a few things from Signal Drift. Yeah, because you need one of those in your 80s tune. You don't really hear it in the mix, but I think it adds a little something to it. That's just that, and that. Okay, here's this. So you can hear they made a little sort of hi-hat thing there. I have a hi-hat somewhere else as well, but this sounds a little bit different. So you can hear lots of really cool stuff. I just didn't really find a place for it in this. This says Groove Agent, which is just the Cubase sampler drum kit thing, which you can plug your sounds into, which I have done. So if we'll take a look, you see I do have a lot more processing on these, since Impact Foundry wasn't necessarily meant to be used as a 80s drum kit. But you know, you've got good sounds. You can make kit out of probably nearly anything. You've got 2 kick sounds, and every time the kick happens here, those 2 are sounded together. There's my sort of snare. Tom sounds, which were made out of Kitty Igloo sounds, because of course they were. All right. This is a coffee machine, just sort of like a side stick kind of substitution. And a coffee cup, which is my cowbell. So there we go. Hi-hat barn. So these are barn hits that I have, as you can see here, done some processing with. A lot on that, right? Just to get the top part, to get this sort of hi-hat sound. Space Blender, very fun reverb with the 1985 setting, naturally, from Sound Toys. Let's take a listen to that hi-hat. So hi-hat crashes, which I've made out of a few different things. Some of these things I've bounced and then manipulated. You'll see here this is audio stuff. EQ, big Space Blender stuff, panned. It's the same thing left and right. You'll see I didn't always use them together, but sometimes I did. This is like the big hit point of the verse. So now I did mess around with trying Vital, which is free, of course, so I thought maybe that would be okay to include. But honestly, like after trying it with and without, I just sort of liked it better without. So the track is on here, but it was muted the whole time. So let's listen to a little bit of the drums together. And there you go. And that's the whole thing. All right, so there you've got a little overview of Signal Drift, the new library from Triumph Audio, in addition to some interesting ways I've used Impact Foundry on this 80s thing. I did submit a few patches for this library that you'll be able to find in there. I didn't use any of them in this piece because they didn't fit, but I'm happy with how they came out, and I want to thank Triumph Audio for letting me get my feet wet with some sound design things. So yeah, I wrote this demo, which I hope you find was rad. And have a good rest of your day. See you soon.